All right, good morning, everybody. Uneducated Economist here. All right, we already got a thumbs up. Thank you for hitting that thumbs up as soon as you come into the live stream. I appreciate that. So, in today's live stream, we are going to be talking about how the working class struggle is going to continue going into the future. And by becoming aware of the economic forces that are underlying, gives you the best position that you could possibly be in when it comes to trying to figure out what you do with your everyday lifestyle. Like, most people are trying to figure out what it is that they are going to do with their day job in order to pay the bills on time, figure out how to have something decent in their life, and then turn around and at the end of it all have some sort of retirement. And this isn't like too much to ask, but yet it seems like it's getting harder and harder every day. And so this working class crisis continues to go into the future. We're going to figure out what it is that we need to do, but most people are going to figure out who to blame, right? Like, this is what it comes down to. Everybody wants to point the finger at somebody else and saying, you're the reason, this is the cause, this is the issues that we now face is because of these political reasons. And it's pretty easy to look at it and say, yeah, that's the cause. But then when you start stepping back through history and you start looking at what it was that was going down at the time, most of the political decisions that were made were due to an underlying economic force that was taking place. And so as people say, yeah, they're manipulating the system and they created this system of manipulation, it was like, yeah, I can agree with that. There's a lot of manipulation that happens within the system that definitely puts a lot of people at some advantages and other people at an extreme disadvantage. But it's not like they did it on purpose. It was something that they took advantage of at the time. And so once you understand that the underlying economic forces, which are very cumbersome to try and understand, but once you do, you could see how it is that the economic environment just literally gave them the ability, and because nobody countered it, we have the outcomes we have today. So let's step it back into history a little bit and just talk about it from like the gold standard, right? Because a lot of people want to talk about the gold standard being the best way to have an economy because it would prevent the governments from going on this, extreme spending. And then people would be in a position in which that the prices would stay fairly constant and their savings would be able to last going into the future. And this is, a pretty common thought and reasonable too. I mean, I think about it in this fashion, that you have less inflation, less issues taking place during these times. So when it comes to having a gold standard, a lot of people don't take into consideration what it is that's really happening when you have a business cycle. And that is the concentration of wealth, the concentration of money. If you are very active in your business, you are very profitable in your business, and you are doing a lot of good business, you are going to concentrate the wealth. So as you are saving, as you are profiting, as you are trying to accumulate the wealth to have a better future, you are literally depriving the rest of the world of being able to use that money. So in a gold standard where you have a limited amount of currency out there, this business cycle, which is part of the economic consequences of using gold, is going to concentrate the wealth into the hands of a few. And this is going to create issues with employment, with more business activity, growth, stuff like that, because the money is literally concentrated, right? It can't go out there and chase goods and services. So when you have this situation taking place and this depressionary effect that comes from it, a lot of times people want to point at the government and say, hey, this is your fault, you did this, or you need to do something about it. Now, if you have a limited currency out there, which doesn't really give the government the ability to go out there and just spend money willy-nilly, they have to actually tax the people or borrow that money into existence. Well, borrowing that money is how it is that they are able to try and provide something for the people because they're begging for it. Like, if they don't have the money, then they have to tax somebody for it, right? Or they have to borrow that into the future. And so now understanding that the problem that the people were facing is that the concentration of wealth would find an equilibrium if they were just to suffer through it. Right? I mean, that's the Cantillon effect that is happening, is the equilibrium is found. Once the concentration of wealth is found, it then has to find its way back out there to whoever is going to be the most industrious person who's providing the goods and services out there that the people with the money want. Right? And so when you understand it in this fashion, it makes a lot of sense that, yeah, the depressionary effect is literally the counterbalancing of the concentration of wealth. Right? It needs to happen. You need the depression to fix the concentration. It's the redistribution that would automatically happen when the rich people accumulate and then need to redistribute it back out there to the most industrious people. Right? This is how it works. I mean, this Cantillon describes this from hundreds of years ago. There's no point in reinventing the wheel on that. That's how it goes down. But now, if you have a bunch of people who are really upset about this idea, they're like, no, 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 we don't want this depressionary effect. We want you, the government, to do something about this. What is it you're going to plan on doing? Right? Because we're poor, we're broke, we're hungry, we want something in our world. What is it you're going to do? And they're like, well, there's something we can do if we're on this gold standard, but if we have a fiat currency, which means that we can inject money into the system when these business cycles really start to ramp up and the concentration of wealth starts to happen and the currency starts to diminish that's out there in the economy, we can inject money into the system, right? This is the excuse for the central banking systems. It's like, hey, we're going to try and smooth out these business cycles. We're going to inject money into the system when the economy is hot. We're going to have this elastic money supply. Increase and decrease of the money supply in accordance to how much business activity is happening out there. People thought, no, man, this doesn't sound good. I mean, fiat currency, no, that's a bad idea. But then all the rest of the people were like, no, we're begging the government to do something about this whole problem that we are facing. And J.P. Morgan, the man, was kind of bummed about, like, and bummed, I guess the terrible word. He no longer wanted to do it. He was tired of bailing out the country. He was just like, you guys got to do something about that. So him and his banking buddies got together and they formed the central banking system, right? That's all in a nutshell. When you think about it from like the Creature from Jekyll Island point of view, like that's a great book to give you the understanding of what was happening at the time, right? I mean, this is why, you have the concentration of money coming together and saying, hey, let's figure out what it is that we're going to do to try and deal with this problem that is faced by the people when the business cycle ramps up and the concentration of wealth starts to happen and there's no more money out there. So they start injecting money through the central banking system. Fiat currency starts to come in to try and smooth out this business cycle. The major problem with this is that according to the Cantillon effect, when you inject new money into the system, what ends up happening is a separation between the rich and the poor begins to take place. And although it's not really necessarily recognized in the early part of it, as people are first getting this money, because all of a sudden there's like all this business activity and all this economic growth starts to happen from it, and everybody sings the praises of this new money that's coming in, and the government's like, hey, we took care of you, didn't we? And all this other stuff that happens that gives people like this praising feeling of low interest rate environment or money printing or whatever. This is what gives like the attitude to the people of like a good economy. Right? It's like low interest rates, people borrowing money, buying stuff, like a lot of business activity on account of it. They think that's a good thing. And then when the central banking system backs away from it and says, hey, there's a lot of like irrational exuberance and stuff like that that's going on within the system, we need to back away and prevent that from happening. People get very upset. So now really what's going on there is that when the money comes in and the new money is injected, people get a high off of it. It's like literally getting high. They're like, oh yeah, easy money, man. Look at all the stuff we get to do with this easy money. But then the hangover comes from it, which means that you have to postpone consumption in order to pay for past consumption, right? Postpone future consumption to pay for past spending, right? And so understanding that when people move into the debt issuance part of new money, now we got a major problem that really starts to take place, because it's not only just new money coming into the system that is separating the rich from the poor from the business activity that happens, right? So as business activity ramps up and people are like, hey man, I'm profitable, they're taking ever increasing amounts of the new money while other people are just sitting there working for it, not collecting the new money. This is what's creating more wealth gap, more divide. Knowing that this is going down, if you continue to issue out new money, it's going to continue to do that. So here is a working class individual who really enjoys it when it first happens. then finds later on, as the money starts to rip through the system and separating the rich from the poor, the people who took advantage of it in a particular way then have a much bigger position above those who are trying to make it on a daily basis. So now what happened here is that the working class individual who was then producing and saving, bringing in that new money from the selling of their production to foreign buyers, that new money coming in gave them the ability to produce and save into a better economy, which meant that they were going to be buying houses and cars. Right? So again, we look back to in the United States, here we had this rise of an industrious nation that was producing the world's greatest stuff. Well, yeah, no wonder it's going to have like one of the highest standard of livings. If you're producing the world's greatest stuff and you're distributing all this stuff out there to the world, what are they sending you? Money, right? A lot of new money that is coming in. So if you have both the debt issuance and foreign production or foreign purchasing of your production, you got a lot of brand new money coming into the system. Well, the only problem with this new money coming into the system from debt issuance is that it expedites the amount of new money that's coming in. So pretty soon you have all this new money that is now in the system, which has separated the rich from the poor, and it's time to pay some of that back. Well, paying that back with a system of gold standard meant that you were going to be unloading your gold out there to the foreigners. You're going to have to relinquish that gold out there. So you have to pay your debts. Right? And the promise to pay in dollars was the promise to pay in gold. So here you had a system. Let's step it back a little bit, right? Let's step it back to the gold standard. You had a system in which that the distribution of economic growth concentrated the wealth, slowing the growth and actually causing the depression. People didn't like that. So the political environment tried to react to this economic force. Right? I mean, if we were to say, hey, we would be better on a gold standard, then we could expect that we would have these business cycles causing these depressions that would be very quick and deep. For most people, they wouldn't know what to do during the business cycles of growth. They're thinking, hey, this will last forever, and they don't save their money for the bad times. Now, this is a problem, right? The depressions that were faced by the economy out there and by the people who were not able to concentrate into the wealth during those business cycles were screaming for help. Right? They were like, we need to do something about this. We need to prevent this from happening. So when we think about it from the underlying economic force that was really taking place, the Cantillon effect, the government was trying to prevent that or smooth that out. By trying to smooth that out, they created another underlying economic force consequence, which was that wealth divide, right? That inequality that continues to grow from it. So again, we can blame the politicians. Like, yeah, the politicians are doing it. Doing what? They're reacting to the underlying economic force. We can look back all the way to the gold standard to why they were doing it, and then what the consequences are from it. Because now we got some serious consequences due to that. And people say, well, it was the politicians' fault. Yeah, it was. They're reacting to the underlying economic force, which is now still preventing the counterbalancing is what they are attempting to do, because the counterbalance is trying to take place. Right? See, the debt cycle should come to an end as the debt comes due and nobody can pay it back. Those who had borrowed on bad faith, right, end up defaulting on their loan, and the people who lent it out there have to suffer the consequences of it. This is the counterbalancing. This is the underlying economic force that is trying to take place. However, you have the government then interacting, trying to say, no, we're going to prevent this from happening. We're going to inject even more money into the system so that you all can stay in your houses and that you can keep your businesses and that you can keep going to work and keep eating. So we're going to inject even more money into the system and keep the e-commerce going. How does that sound? Sounds wonderful to the people so they don't have to go through the depression. The people say, yeah, I don't want to go through a depression. But that's the underlying economic force that's trying to fix the problem. Right? Nobody wants to go through it. Most of the people are saying, no, government, this is your fault. So fix the problem without causing pain. And it was just like, fixing the problem is pain. The pain is the fixing of the problem. The problem is that we don't want to fix the problem. We want to be injected with more drugs, which is going to make us feel high. That's what they want. Because if you have injection of new money, it makes you high like you were on drugs because it becomes addictive. Saying, I don't want to feel anything other than the good expansion of the economy without the consequences of the separation between the rich and the poor. How can you do that? That's not possible. The underlying economic forces just automatically cause it to take place. If you inject new money into the system, it will happen. And there's people out there who recognize how to do it, how to take advantage of that situation in the most extreme ways. Most people just know how to show up to work every day. And if you're showing up to work every day expecting that job to keep pace with those who are taking advantage of new money coming into the system that is separating them from you, and you're like, why is it that my daily job just doesn't cut it anymore? It doesn't make any sense. It must be somebody's fault. Well, yeah, it's your fault for not understanding that the underlying economic forces is separating you from them. And yes, they are going to do it because anytime you put new money in the system, that's what they do. And they get very creative on how they are going to do it. And as most people look at that creative method of how it is that they are separating themselves, they say, aha, there's the problem. There's the culprit. See how they're doing it? And I'm thinking, no, that's the results of new money coming into the system that then gives them the creative ability to then separate themselves from everybody else as everybody's trying to show up for work on time, saying, how come my bills are so expensive? That's what's happening. And I know it's difficult for a lot of people to accept this. It's very difficult for a lot of people to accept this. They want it to be, see, the reason why it's difficult for them to accept it is because everybody really wants a solution to their problem, right? And by expecting a solution, like I've had so many people interrupt me. They're like, dude, just stop right there. Just, why don't you give us some solutions? Right? And I'm thinking the solution literally comes from your understanding of the situation. Because if you don't understand why it is that you're getting separated from the poor or the rich, depending on which side you're on, then you're never going to understand how it is that people need to behave in order to fix it. Right? See, this is the thing. I find people all the time who have the money. They literally have the money, and then they describe, like, I was watching a video today. Okay, I'm starting to ramble here a little bit. How far are we into this? 17 minutes. Okay. I was watching a video earlier today, and somebody in the comment sections from yesterday's video was just like, people just don't get it. They have no clue. The facts are right there. And then he shares this video, and I want to say who it is because they're fairly popular, and they're really good. Like, they're really good. Like, I give them props, right? The only thing is like they described in detail exactly how the Cantillon effect works, but yet did not realize that's what they were doing. Like, that's what really gets me about this, is that people who are economists can understand and see the underlying economic forces. They recognize them. They see it right there. They're like, okay, when all this new money, the asset prices go up, the rich who have assets that go up in value, then they continue to buy into those assets, and they kind of describe these things. And then they see like this wealth growth that happens while the working class suffers behind because literally they have last access to the money. And then when they try to describe this as a political cause, then they come up with all these excuses for the symptoms that they are recognizing within it, when literally when you describe the wedge being driven, it's the Cantillon effect. It's new money coming in. Some people take advantage of that new money. They position themselves with that new money to get more new money, where other people take that and then put themselves literally on the bottom side of the wedge with slavery by borrowing new money to buy a luxurious item. And it's so crazy to see it. And then they want to blame politics for people's behavior. It's so mind-numbing to me to think that people out there want to blame government for the fiat currency crisis that we face of inequality that comes from it, yet they continue to beg for it. Right? I sit there and I'm like, man, do people like literally complain about the same thing that they want? I think they do. Like that's like literally, I sit there and I listen to people complain, and I'm like, this is just absolute circle talking. They sit there and complain about the exact thing that they want in their life, right? They complain, oh man, this money doesn't buy inflation, all this other stuff. Government needs to do something about it. And I'm like, like literally, did you just say that? If you say the words government needs to do something, you might as well just say injection of new money needs to occur. Right? Because the government can't do anything except for take away from you or borrow against it, borrow against the future. Right? So when you think about it in this fashion, you can realize, okay, the government is reacting to the underlying economic forces of new money coming into the system. If new money continues to come into the system, you will definitely find a separation between the rich and the poor. And there is no better evidence of it than property ownership. I mean, property ownership is it. It is the number one thing that is so obvious when it comes to the inequality that has taken place. How hard is it for you to acquire a home? See, this is the thing. You're hearing this from a working class individual who is doing it right now. How many people out there are talking about this home crisis, housing crisis, economic crisis, and all this other stuff within the working class who is somebody who is rich? They already done figured it out. They done had the money in a time that isn't right now. And then they're going to come and tell you what it is that the problem is. Here it is. I'm doing it right now. And then people want to push back against it and say, dude, you're wrong. And I'm thinking, how can I possibly be wrong when I'm doing it right now? I'm proving it to not only myself, but everybody who has been following this channel for the last 7 years, that being a broke ass in debt with nothing to your skill sets as far as like any kind of specialty, any kind of family wealth, any kind of business inheritance, any like that, none of that stuff. Right? I was standing on the street just as the same as everybody else with no opportunity that is special to me than anybody else would have. I had a used iPhone 6 that I started a YouTube channel with, and I put out videos just about every single day talking about the economy, and it eventually grew into a huge following of subscribers with the chances to go travel around and do speaking engagements and all kinds of stuff. And I never really had any plan to do any of that stuff. I knew that if I continuously put out videos that I would get something from it. I didn't know what it was. All I was expecting was to learn something about economics from it. Now, when I watched and followed other people who are going out there and busting their butt right now trying to figure out what it is that they could do, I found there's a whole group of people out there who figured out how to kill it right now. No special education, no special skills, no special anything going on, but yet they figured out that there is ways of making money in this world that is different from their 9-to-5 job, and yet now they are sitting in a position that says like, hey man, this ain't so bad. Now I look over there at the working class, my working class job, everybody who I work with, who is saying, man, it is tough out here. It is struggling. And I'm thinking, man, I don't know how the hell you guys are going to get a house when I can barely get a house. And I'm putting in massive amounts of effort in trying to figure out how much income I can get and cutting back on my expenses as much as possible. And it's still difficult. Yeah, working class, you ain't got a chance. If that's your only plan, like I thought that was my only plan, I realized that ain't gonna work. I mean, I tried hard. 40 years old, had foreclosure in my life because I couldn't keep up with the great financial crisis and the falling of construction work. That was the business that I was in. Had no more income, couldn't make my payments anymore, had problems with depressions and all kinds of issues that came from that. How many people want to sit there and take it into an internalized problem and say, man, I can look at all this out here and understand why it's taking place. And I can blame politicians all day long, but blaming isn't going to work. I mean, I blame people all day long, right? I blamed them all day long about everything. I could prove it 100 times over on why it was the New World Order, why it was somebody else's fault. I could blame everywhere. But once I recognized and understood that this is an underlying economic force that people are reacting to, including the government, now I realize, oh man, the chances of people getting a house is fading fast. The more they beg for government to do something, the chances of their home ownership fades away. Their opportunity is present, but it's difficult to see because most people want to take it and say, hey, you don't have to look at what it is you can do. You just have to look at who you can blame. And the more this energy is put out there, just about every single economist out there that I look at, even the ones who are really good, who have 1 million followers and talk about, this stuff in great detail, they will continue to say, hey, this is the political environment that is causing this pain to you. And the moment that you do that, the moment that you say, hey, this is the excuse, you will never look for a reason to succeed. You will always continue to reinforce the blame excuse. I know this because this is what I did, right? Like if I'm to share anything with you from a working class point of view that will then get you onto the other side of the wedge, or at least on a path of trying to get to the other side of the wedge, like I don't know if I'm going to make it. I really don't. I mean, I got a lot of ground to make up for. I made some really piss poor decisions in my life. And now I got to make up for all those piss poor decisions, and I got to raise a family, and I got to figure out a retirement, and I got to figure out how to continue on within this economy. And that's not easy, right? But understanding that that's my responsibility to figure all that stuff out. And the moment that I say, well, it's so difficult to be here and it's them who are doing it, it's all going to deteriorate because I will not be looking for the things that I need to do to chase the excellence to succeed here. That's the problem that most people face. I mean, I know that was me, right? I mean, like, it's not a magic secret. It's what you're thinking. Are you thinking about your problems? Are you thinking about your solutions, right? Are you thinking about the next business activity? Are you thinking about the next possibility that you could go to? Are you thinking about the ways that you could cut back on your expenses? Are you thinking about those things, or are you thinking about the blame and excuses? Because blame and excuses is really entertaining. It's a lot of fun, and it makes you feel like it's a right way to look at things. But really what it's doing is it's deteriorating your life. And then what's really crazy about it is the more that people look at that sort of behavior and that sort of thought and that sort of energy, there's somebody on the other side of it who's profiting, right? They're making money off of your attention. And this is why I try to constantly on this channel to say, take it in for yourself so that you can look at what it is that you can do to position yourself better. That's what I want this channel to really do, is for you to walk away after this video with the thought and energy within you that says, I can do this. I know that there's places I could go to make money. I know that there's places I could go to cut back on my expenses. I know that there's places I could go to succeed, because people are doing it right now. The Uneducated Economist is doing it, all right? And I mean, if I barely have a high school diploma, like I hate admitting this, I cheated to get my high school diploma, all right? I cheated on it to get there. And now, it's years later, doesn't really mean anything. Nobody ever looked at my high school nobody ever looked at my high school diploma after I received it, and my family was like, wow, that's really cool. It got stuck away in a drawer, and nobody ever looked at it again. Nobody ever asked for it. I never had to prove it. It didn't really mean anything to anybody other than, hey, man, you did it, right? So, hey, that's awesome. That's cool. I'm glad I went through high school and all that other stuff, but the high school diploma really doesn't mean anything, right? It just really doesn't. And so when I think about what it is that you can do for your skill sets, your abilities, and your possibilities, it comes down to your internal feelings on what it is that you think about money, what it is you think about success, what it is you think about the world, right? And if you feel deep down inside that it is a problem, that it's difficult, that it is hard, that is going to be something that is unachievable, and there's all kinds of reasons to prove how this is actually happening to you, I guarantee you will find the evidence of that. No doubt about it. Okay? Because what you are doing is you are thinking and feeling and creating the energy of importance that says, I'm damaged. That's what it comes down to. When you don't think that way, when you have an understanding of your, I mean, really, really what it comes down to is your self-esteem. If you don't feel like you can do it, then you won't. If you think that other people look negatively upon you, and that's what you see from the world, and the world sees you, that's the reflection of your internal being. That's not them thinking that of you. That's you thinking of yourself and the reflection that you get from that. That's hard. That's a hard thing for a lot of people to internalize, and a tough pill to swallow. Is that if you are recognizing pain and misery on the outside, that is a reflection of your feelings. That's a reflection of you and your internal being. When you take that and you turn it around into confidence, into a feeling of self-esteem that is, I am worthy, I am valuable to this world, I am useful, right? I mean, when you take it on and not like fake it, like sometimes people have to fake it until they realize that's what it is, right? And then when they take that on, it's like a false sense of confidence, which is very real. But the fact that you're even doing it is breaking through the scary nervousness, that lacking, right? You're breaking through that stuff. And of course, it's unfamiliar territory. And if you're in unfamiliar territory, it's going to be strange. It's going to feel odd and out of place. So as you start to move into that feeling of, man, this is abundant. This is everywhere. This is accessible. This is mine. And it's an unfamiliar place, you almost reject it. You're like, nah, it can't be that easy. Oh, I don't want to be greedy. That's a funny one. I don't want to be greedy. Well, literally, here's your opportunity to have all the abundance in the world, and you take on the idea that you don't want to be greedy, so you deny the abundance. I did that. I literally did that thing. You know that? When the channel first took off, I was like, whoa, no, this isn't right. Like, how is it that I can have this and all the people around me don't? Why is it that I get this unfair advantage over everybody that's around me? I get to pay off all my bills, I get this good life, I can spend on anything I want. How come they don't get to do that? I'm not worthy of this, isn't right. I don't deserve this. I literally told myself stuff like that. That's what holds people back. They literally, like, I didn't want to be greedy. I always looked at greedy bastards out there was the reason why I couldn't make it in this world. Literally accused greedy people of it, and subconsciously, I knew that to be the case. Once it had been proven to me that it wasn't, the subconscious is still like, you're a greedy bastard if you take it. You're greedy. You're wrong. You're a bad dude. You don't do that. Right? I'm thinking I can help my family. I was like, you're greedy. Talk about an internal conflict, right? Let it go. Let go of the idea of you being greedy. Why, man? There's people out there who have way more than you will ever have. And I don't care if you get 1,000 times more profit and you're a profit again 1,000 times more, you're still not going to achieve what it is that some people got out there. Don't even stress about being greedy. Be greedy. Take it all. Take it all for yourself. Take as much as you possibly can. All right? Be in that mindset. Don't be the idea that I'm greedy, man. That's going to limit you. That is a limited belief. And once you break through that, then it becomes like, hey, I have the ability to acquire money in so many fashions. Like, I can get creative on how it is that I can acquire money. Okay? I can acquire money through 9-to-5 work. That's like, trading time for dollars. I can make money on online sales. I can make money making videos. I can make money doing a side hustle. I can make money doing dividend paying stocks. I can make money doing whatever, staking crypto. Like, you just think about it. I can make money doing rental properties. I can make money. Right? And that's all you think about is different places. It's like, wow, man, that thing's pretty nice. How much is that for? $100? That's it. Those things go for like $500. That's all you want is $100? Here, I'll take that. I'll put it on the internet for $200. Instant sale. Turn and burn. Right? My buddy used to do that all the time. All the time, man. He would be scrolling the internet constantly, like, boom. He would be making offers all day long. And I'm like, dude, how do you get these great deals? And he just looked at me and he was just like, really? It was just like, if you offer 100 different people an extremely low deal, like on something, most people are going to turn it down. But couple out of 100 will take the deal. He says it's a numbers game, right? And then you get it, and then you turn and burn, and you double your money. You flip it, right? Just as fast as that. Mindset. It's all about being in the flow of money constantly. And so once you get that, once you recognize it, for other people out there, for people who are fairly successful in their life, they're like, yeah, duh, dude, but other people who are trying to figure out how it is that they are going to succeed in this world, they don't get it. They don't recognize it in that same fashion. What they are looking for is something that they could do for 9 to 5, right? For their 9 to 5 time during the day. They're looking for something that they could do in their 9 to 5 day and then be done with it, and then not take in any other like energy towards trying to acquire. Literally, like for me, it's nonstop. There's moments in the day that I literally have to turn it off and say, okay, you are not working right now. You're hanging out. We went to the movies last night, watched the movie, right? We sat there and watched the movie. It was very cool. I left my phone in the car even, I didn't even want to take it, or did it? No, I did grab it, but I didn't look at my phone the entire time, right? It's like almost impossible for me to turn it off now. Like it just is. Like I'm always thinking, okay, where's the next place? Where can I go? And to be perfectly honest with you guys, I don't really even do that much, right? Like I really don't. I mean, I do a lot to try and figure out, like I test the theories in a lot of different places, but really I just kind of flow to what it is that's the easiest path of acquiring, like, follow the path of least resistance to the most abundance of money. Like, I mean, I just think that way. It was really hard to get the position that I did at work. It took a lot to get there, right? It took a lot of time, it took a lot of effort, it took a lot of study, it took a lot of practice, right? To be good at the sales, to be good at the, what it is that I'm doing out there. But once I was able to acquire the position I have, it's fairly easy to do. Like, it's not that hard. It's just relaying information. That ain't that difficult. It's not really that much different from what I'm doing on YouTube or calling bingo or anything else I do. It's just relaying information. Pick up the phone, call that, just give them that, punch a few numbers into a screen, whatever. It's just like, it's not hard. It's not hard to do it. Sometimes it can get a little overwhelming when, time crunches and things like that kind of happen. But for the most part, it's just being in the flow of money in a constant, right? Whether I'm at work or making a YouTube video or trying to do a side hustle or trying to do something that's going on out there that's, trying to figure out what the next thing would be to acquire the next dollar. Like sometimes I'm doing something that isn't necessarily acquiring a dollar, but it will if I do it continuously going into the future, and testing that theory out to see if it's something I want to do is a pretty constant for me as well. So I'm constantly doing something that never does make any money just to see what it's like. Because if it is something you like, then you might stick to it, and then who knows what could come from it. This is the mindset. That's it. It's simple. There's nothing to it. But it's hard to change it when you have gone into a familiar territory of failure. When failure is the constant view, when it's the belief, when it's the energy that you're carrying, and even if you are succeeding and you don't recognize it because your success is actually diminished with your belief that it's difficult to make it in this world, right? Like I recognize how hard it is. I recognize what I have to do because I recognize it because of what everybody else is attempting to do. How much I put in, the effort that I am putting in is far beyond what it is that I see a lot of other people doing. Other people with a business that they are running, where they are literally working that business 16 hours a day, whether it's, 8 hours a day of physical labor and then 8 hours a day of doing bids or takeoffs or doing whatever it is that they're doing to try and shuffle the paperwork around that's not necessarily the physical on the site job. A lot of people don't recognize how much work people put in. Those people who are successful are pretty much nonstop. Huh? I mean, you get to a certain level in which you're like, hey, I'm going to get to the point of retiring. I'm not going to think about it anymore. Okay, well, those are, and you say, well, those people are successful. No, they were successful. They're enjoying their success, right? Successful people are doing it constantly. They're doing it, right? They're just in it constantly. Man, I just babbled. Oh, we got 240 people watching though. That's cool. My camera keeps wanting to. Let's see if I can get it to stay over there. There we go. All right, successful is not how much you have, but how good you do. I kind of agree with that, Crazy, because it doesn't really matter. Like, I think about it a lot. Money is really not the objective here. We look at the money because it's kind of like built into us as far as the way that we were raised, movies, songs, all this other stuff. It puts this this super huge importance on money. And I think like a lot of times when you focus in on the actual money, like on the actual dollar that's there, what you're missing is the energy of it, right? Because the energy of it is really what you're looking for. And I understand that a lot of people don't get that. It's because once you have it, then you recognize it, you'll see it. But when you don't have it, it becomes very distant and very like mysterious in a sense. And so to try and understand, like to relate to what it would be like to be in the appropriate energy of acquiring the abundance in the money, right? Is kind of like the idea of taking on like this surprise feeling of having won the lottery, right? So let's just, yeah, if you can hypothetically, if you could just imagine, just pretend, right, for just a minute that you just won like a major lottery, right? Like way more money than you could ever possibly imagine, hundreds of millions of dollars. And like if you close your eyes right now and you imagined that, you would have this overwhelming like sense of like rush, right? It would be like, holy crap, right? The entire world is going to change for me right here, right now. Everything is going to be different. Okay. Imagine if you had really got this lottery winning ticket, right? And you have it. It's yours. It's like completely yours. And now you're thinking about what it's like to be in that $1 million. You think like, because you got it in your hand and you're thinking, man, I'm going to have cars. And you're thinking all the stuff you're going to have, the things you're going to do, the people you're going to, the people you're going to help out and all this other stuff. And you're thinking about all those things, right? Because you got it. You absolutely have it in your hand, right? That feeling of energy, of just excitement and just like, man, it's almost like the security, like I don't have to try anymore. I just did it, man. It's there, all there. Yes, right? You can have the feeling. You didn't actually win, but you can have the feeling. See, being in that feeling, in that energy, that you already have it, it's already there. It's already gone. You didn't have anything. You didn't go out and buy nothing. You didn't help anybody out. You didn't anything, but you got the ticket in your hand. You know for sure. You got the ticket in your hand right now. You don't know it. Most people don't realize that they got the ticket right now in their hand. They can have the energy. If they had the energy, it would all be there. It would all be there in abundance for them right now, everything they could ever possibly have imagined. But instead, they will make up excuses on why they aren't holding the ticket. They will look for the ticket. They will be out there searching for it. They will be like, man, have you seen it? Where is it? Is it over there? Can you show me how to get there? Can you show me how to put it in my hand? And the entire time, I'm trying to tell you, it's right there in your hand. You already got it. And so once you recognize that it's that energy that you're in that realizes that I already have this in mass abundance already right here, and all I have to do is just reach out there and get it. Once you know it for yourself, like not anybody's trying to convince you through a YouTube video or anything else, you already know it. You got it, right? And you don't have to be convinced of it. And nobody else is going to tell you that, man, that ain't true. That ain't going to happen. It's a bunch of horseshit, all that other stuff. You don't like, that's inconsequential to your feelings of how it is that you have this abundance. When you take that on, when you figure out how to take that on, because most people are going to put up the blocks. They're not going to realize that they have to do hardcore, deep meditation, soul searching, childhood trauma impact stuff to realize what it is that's creating the blocks in their life that hold them back. Again, there's not a YouTube video, there's not a single YouTube video in the world that you could watch that's going to fix that. That's something you have to recognize, understand for yourself, Start doing the deep dive research into why it occurred, self-reflection, meditations, and take on a new belief system on what it is that's actually occurring within your world, because you got to understand that it's a reflection of what you're thinking and feeling. The idea of money, what causes the pain and suffering in the world, the responsibilities of who should do something about it, and ultimately it comes down to you. You're the one who needs to take responsibility for all of it, 100%. And it's not the external that you take responsibility for. It's you and your understanding and your feelings and energy and everything that you are carrying. The moment that you see it in this fashion, then it becomes so much easier. Everything becomes easier. Everything just just starts falling into place. There was a time in my life, see, people say, man, I don't know, there's people out there who have a hell of a lot more than you do. And I'm like, oh yeah, I don't really have that much. It was just like, I drive an old 97 Suburban, right? I mean, I got a 99 Ford Explorer over here. I got a 2001 S10. These are my vehicles, right? If you were to go and walk through my house, like the nicest thing I have is a 4-year-old TV. Like I don't have nice stuff. I don't have anything. Like I was a broke dude just a few years ago. It wasn't that long ago, with kids and a day job and mass debt and trying to figure out what it is that I'm going to do in this world. And I tell you, there was a time when I finally looked at myself and I said, man, wouldn't it just be nice to just pay your bills on time? I mean, is that too much to ask for? To be able to pay your bills on time and not stress about being able to pay your bills on time, because that's what you stress most about. You have bills that pile up, that pile up, that pile up. And the debt keeps piling up. And there seems to be no end to it, and no relief, and nothing you can do. Right? And I told myself that. I said, man, it would just be awesome to be in a position in which I could just pay my bills on time. Who cares about new cars? Who cares about all the fancy stuff? I don't care about any of that stuff. I just want to pay my bills on time, raise my family. Doesn't seem that too much to ask for. I got it. See? Like it wasn't that much. Like it doesn't even feel like it's that hard to do, really, now that I'm here. Go to work every day, show up on time, right? Be committed to it. Do the videos. Be honest. Be helpful. Be useful. Be entertaining on the side hustle, doing the bingo calling. Be good, be excellent, be useful, stay away from pleasurable experiences, right? And you'll be able to pay your bills on time too. It isn't hard, but it does take a mindset that is much different than one of, I'm failing, they're failing me, they're to blame, here's the excuse, this is the reason. I mean, we can sit there and come up with it all day long. I recognize it as an underlying economic force. I don't have to give excuses. I don't give blame. I don't give expectations to any changes to the system, because I don't really think that they can change the system to create anything that's going to be more than what it is or anything else. They're going to separate the rich from the poor even more, because it's going to be money injection. If they don't do it, everybody falls into pain and misery and poverty. I mean, I don't want either one of those things. But then again, I don't want them, right? It just is what it is. And I figured out how to deal with it. That's it. All right. Moving on. Look at all these comments. 219 people watching with 82 likes. If you're liking this video, continue to hit that like button. UE equals Charlie Sheen on a bender. Oh, that's kind of mean. All right. Had to wait longer to get a fridge, freezer without an ice maker. Yeah, that's a bummer. Drive a 2012 Camry V6. Bryce will run another 150K. Thanks for the show. You can make it big as a cult leader. Oh, thanks. I appreciate that. That's really, it's kind of insulting to hear. But then again, I think about it as just like, that's the reflection that a lot of other people would have on it. And I'm not trying to be a cult leader. What I'm trying to do is explain what it is that I went through that then gave me what I feel is a much better position in life that doesn't feel stressful. It doesn't feel overwhelming. It doesn't feel burdensome. It doesn't feel like it's hard or easy. It just feels normal. It feels right. Sometimes it's exciting, sometimes it's boring. But then again, you can't enjoy everything because everything comes to an end, right? I mean, it's just like there's some things that come to an end and you say, man, that was fun. Was fun. Right now, what is it? It's just normal. It just is what it is. So as people are like, man, you could, trying to be the self-help guru, whatever, and I'm like, I don't want to do that. I want to talk economics. I want to talk about the underlying economic forces and how it is that they impact your life, or how it is that they impact society, or how it is that they are evolving and changing over the courses of generations and history and time and money relevance. Like, that's the kind of stuff that I like to talk about. I don't want to talk about what it is that changed my belief system, overcoming the childhood trauma impacts, trying to figure out why it is that my mindset was so different that kept me poor. I don't necessarily want to talk about that, but that's the underlying economic force that kept me in depression, that kept me down, right? Was literally my mindset. And so as I tried to help people to understand that my mindset that was keeping me down, if you're feeling held down, maybe it's because of the way you're thinking, right? And now some people can go and find it at church. They can go to, go and find a religious group to follow and be quite successful at, following that lead. And that's awesome. And I totally, have to give it to the people out there who can do that. I personally don't do that. I am a person of trial and error and testing the theories and all that other stuff. So for me, I need to be punished in different ways. I mean, it's the same thing. I mean, essentially, somebody's going to have to suffer for it and somebody's going to have to forgive at some point. I mean, you can learn that all kinds of ways. All right. Be honest with yourself and the answers will appear. Hold yourself accountable for your choices and move forward. Yeah, I agree with that. I mean, it's just like, that's really what it comes down to, is that if you can take accountability for yourself and you can take ownership of everything, like all the choices that you made, the good and bad ones, all the, success, all the failures, all the, good and bad times, you take ownership of all that stuff, right? Not only does it relieve you in a lot of ways, because when you put this heavy weight of somebody else's problems as causing this to you, there's really nothing you can do to relieve that weight. Right? Once you have put it on, it's like, oh, it's the politician's fault. It's my family's fault. It's all these other people's fault. And you put that on like a backpack full of weight, and you carry that around, and you're like, this is why it's so hard to make it, right? It's because you're carrying all this crap. Dump it. Dump that crap. And a lot of people don't know how to dump it. It's because dumping it literally means stop thinking about it. That's what it means. And people have put that into their thoughts so long for like they don't even know how to think in a way that doesn't think about it. Like they literally cannot do that. They don't know how. Right? And that's what's really funny about it. And so they'll carry this weight literally because they just don't know how to think about it differently, because they have never thought about it any other way. And if you've never done it, then how do you know? How do you know how to? You can't. So this is what sticks a lot of people. That's why therapy is so popular nowadays, is because people recognize that, oh man, I can learn to think differently. And it was just like, yes, you absolutely can. You can absolutely learn to think differently. And the main way you do that is to understand why it is you're thinking the way it is you're thinking. And most of the time, it's because of the way we grew up. The movies we listen to, or the movies we watched, the music we listened to, the family that we had, the schools that we went to, the churches that we went to, right? All this stuff formed this belief system that we now have. And when we think, we just think that's it. That's the way we think, not knowing that you can change it. So when you have this belief system about money that you were raised by, your parents might have struggled for money to pay the bills, to do all these other things. You grew up with this belief system that there's a limitation of money out there, which is absolutely incorrect. There's nothing but abundance of money. But if you were raised with this limitation mindset, right, that literally cannot, like you, abundance, that seems weird. No, it's limitation. No, it's not. No, it's not. That's the meaning and belief system that you have created. That's hard, right? That's hard to, it's hard to accept, and then it's hard to overcome. Right? Knowing that's the problem that you probably face. Think about it. There's people out there right now who are making money. I mean, I have to say it. I mean, I'm not trying to brag it up like I'm some sort of millionaire or whatever, but what I asked for in my life, I got, which was to pay my bills on time without stress. And now I don't know how many people out there who have that same sort of want in their life, but it's not that hard to get. Like the effort that I go through to acquire that in my life doesn't seem that hard. I had to go through a lot to get there. Right? There was a lot of trial and error and screw ups and effort and all kinds of stuff to eventually get to that point. But that's building anything up, building a business, building, a house, building, a project, building a relationship. Everything comes by pieces that comes together. And once you do it and you find yourself in that position, it's just like, I don't look back and say like, oh, well, I can blame somebody else for putting me in this position. It was just like, who do I blame for the position that I'm now in? Do I give credit to somebody else for putting me in this position? Like, I didn't do this. Like, Obama would want me to believe that, but no, that's not true. Right? I mean, it wasn't, it wasn't somebody else who put me here. It was my thoughts, behaviors, actions, belief systems that put me right where I'm at today. And as people say, oh, dude, you're so wrong. And I'm like, hold on one second. I got to go pay my bill that I can pay right now because it's on time. And I'll be right back. Okay. Because I got what I wanted. I don't know what you want. Right. And people say, dude, you didn't get what you want. And I'm like, what are you talking about? I may not be where you want, right? Which I can understand that because I really don't have that much, and that's like totally understandable. Because if somebody was just like, "Dude, I want what you want," I'm like, I don't know what it is that I got that you want, other than the mindset and the abilities of what it is that I have positioned myself for, which I can understand that, right? But most people would probably have screwed this up. They would have bought a car, they would have spent all the money, they would have done something else because they weren't in the mindset of doing it. If they were, they wouldn't even be watching the video, right? No, I'm just kidding. Ultimately, what it comes down to is that by even thinking of the idea of what it is that holds you back, you will try to find the evidence of it. Right? A lot of people watch this videos because they love the working class perspective. When I came up with the ideas that I had about the economic forces and how it is that they are impacting the economy from a working class point of view, I realized that the working class is actually on the cutting edge of the economy. They know more about the economy than they realize. They just don't do anything about it. And the reason, and you can see the proof that they don't do anything about it is because they're struggling, even though they have firsthand information on what it is that they need to do. And that's the like it's probably like the biggest secret that most people have no idea of. It's right there. It's the biggest secret is that the working class individual is on the cutting edge of the economy with firsthand information that could totally send them to the top side of the wedge, and they don't know it. It's amazing. Brody, please double check that you left a like, everybody. It's the best way to support the work. Yes, thank you, Brody, and thank you for being here, man. All right. Do you think Trump will be able to refi the national debt? Nope. Into what? I mean, refinancing is just, basically selling debt at a lower interest rate or, selling the bonds at a higher price. I don't know if a lot of people quite realize that Trump really talks out a lot of, like he talks how do I describe this? He talks in a way that doesn't really have any kind of relevance or any kind of practical reality to it. He talks very um I don't know, like I don't even know how to word to describe it. It was just like he talks in a way that can give you this illusion that what he is doing is going to have this profound impact and change on the way it is that things are going to happen out there or be done. And what I mean by that is like even the excuses or thought or the attention that he is giving towards the Federal Reserve and Jerome Powell, like this is like I look back on it and I'm like, this is huge. This is huge. Not the actual story about it, but the fact that they are pushing this through the mainstream media in such a way that it's drawing the people's attention because it's not reality. There's nothing that can happen here. There's no outcome, there's no change, there's no difference that can come from this discussion, right? But yet people are saying, here's how I would position my portfolio if Jerome was to be fired, right? And I'm thinking, holy crap. Like I don't get it, but this is like so far off from anything that could ever possibly be of an outcome that it's pure pretend. It's pretend, right? And as people take their time, belief, and energy and they focus in on that, what they are doing is drawing their attention away from something else. What is that? What is it that they are drawing the attention away from? Because this big ball of annoyance that has taken place here isn't real. Like there's no reality to it. It is completely pretend. But the focus is real. The people who are focusing in on it, that is really happening. And that is creating a real thing. And that real thing is something that is not being that is not being noticed. What is that? Right? What is it that's going on there? Because that distraction, right? It's so obvious to me. Like I sit there and I'm thinking, why are real economists even entertaining this idea? The moment that he brought it up, they were like, dude, stop talking. Right? I mean, as a real economist who understands the reality of the situation, what you are talking is completely superficial, hypothetical, doesn't matter, won't change anything, and yet you got all these people out there putting it on the front pages of the newspaper. What would happen if Jerome Powell failed or got fired or quit or resigned or whatever? And I'm thinking, does anybody understand how the FOMC forms their monetary policy? Because if you did, all that stuff would be just complete garbage. Nobody would look at it. But I guess nobody understands how the FOMC forms monetary policy, and so that gives them the excuse to go ahead and form these opinions about Jerome Powell and what kind of impact that would have to the economy if he was to be removed or fired or quit or whatever. And I'm thinking, what in the world did you just say? Why would you even like babble off some like hot air like this when you would obviously want to then focus in back on the FOMC and say, okay, how is the FOMC behaving in accordance to what the monetary policy is? Doesn't matter if Jerome Powell's there or not. That's what people should be looking at, but they don't. All right. I mean, I'm seeing how Christopher Waller is popping off here, right? And there's like huge divide within the Federal Reserve, and I'm like, all right, it's not like this wasn't discussed earlier, and that the uncertainty that was being pushed by the Federal Reserve last month, with every single Fed official coming out with the word uncertainty in the headline, I mean, it wasn't like they were trying to create uncertainty. You think, yeah. I mean, here's the uncertainty all prevalent within the people's belief system about the Federal Reserve, have no idea about what's going on, and it's not like they didn't try to create that. They created the uncertainty on purpose, and we already know why. Philip Jefferson described it in a speech that he had given months ago, using uncertainty to create a better better monetary policy. I mean, you don't believe? Hold on one second, guys. I'll bring it up. I will prove it. Yeah? On how it is that they use uncertainty on purpose. Describes it, right? That's part of the monetary policy. This doesn't have anything to do with Jerome Powell. This had Philip Jefferson. Do you guys know who Philip Jefferson is? Where is he? Jefferson. Boom. Down here. The potential for, this is Philip Jefferson, the potential for misinterpretation is especially acute when many policymakers speak at the same time and disagree with each other. What did the headline say? Huge divide, right? Divide amongst the Fed officials. Many speak at the same time and disagree with each other. Part of the plan. You come out and you talk about this. You come out and you talk about that. I'll come out and I'll talk about, it. And we will create fear, uncertainty, and doubt. The diversity of viewpoints among policymakers lends itself to stimulating debates. How many people are debating about Jerome Powell? Stimulating debate and ultimately better policy. Right? This is how they do it. They create better policy by doing that, by creating fear, uncertainty, and doubt, leaving the expectations open so that their words will have more of an impact. I've described this time and time and time again. There is no way that you're going to convince me of anything else because the Federal Reserve has convinced me of that. The Fed has convinced me of their credible threats. Not the credible threat of they're going to come up with inflation and destroy everybody because that's credible. No. I've understood their credible threat that they're going to use the inflation expectation of the elevated inflation expectation that's going to destroy the entire economy. They're going to use that power against you. That's the credible threat. Nobody recognized it. I look now at all the effort that I had thrown out there about ending the Federal Reserve and how it is that they're going to cause hyperinflation with their money printing and all the other stuff. Like quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4 completely destroyed my belief system. When I knew the balance sheet expansion of $850 billion to over $4.5 trillion was going to destroy the dollar. Very little chance you could have convinced me of anything else. I knew it. I knew deep down inside that if I didn't dump every penny that I had into silver, I was going to be crying my eyes out. I watched silver run up to $50 an ounce in 2011. I thought, man, I'm the smartest person in the world. All you people who weren't paying attention, man, you are going to suffer big time. Everybody should have listened to me, man. They just don't know. They should have read The Creature from Jekyll Island too, and they would have been positioning themselves in silver, and they would have been super happy like I am. It wasn't but a few years later, it was all back down into the teens. In fact, it went all the way down into the teens from $50 an ounce. Here it was that I thought the dollar destruction from quantitative easing 1, 2, 3, and 4, creating a hyperinflation scenario, silver was going to protect me from it, and all I found myself was completely under on it, broke as hell, in debt, drunk, depressed. It was a horrible experience. It was probably one of the worst experiences that I went through. And the entire time, I'm screaming, end the Fed. That they're the reasons, they're the problems, they're the excuse. One day I finally said enough of it. I just turned it all off. I didn't have a phone. I didn't look at the internet. I didn't watch TV. I hardly used my debit card. I would use cash everywhere I went. I checked out. I was done. It was probably the deepest, darkest time in my life. And I knew what was causing it. I knew who did it. It was the system. It was the system that did it to me. And if you had seen it the way I seen it, I would have proved it to you. What was I going to do? I mean, I can't change anything about the external. So I just suffered the consequences of it. And that was all there was to it. Not much I could, I mean, I could try to convince everybody to end the Federal Reserve and to get, to fight against the New World Order and do all that other stuff. I tried. I mean, I tried to convince people. They just call me a lunatic, call me a conspiracy theorist, call me, weird. So I stopped talking. I just gave up on it all. Fine. Screw it all, right? I knew that wasn't right. And I knew that there was something that could be done. And it wasn't going to happen from changing anything about anybody else or the system or, anything like that. It literally came down to my belief system, how it is that I was acting, thinking, behaving, and feeling. That's it. Once I figured that part out, I thought, oh man, okay. So just be happy, right? That's it. Just simple as that. Be happy. Yeah, I mean, that's kind of, if you just want to break it down to it, yeah, that's it. Just carry good, happy energy, right? Good, happy, positive energy. And yeah, everything will be fine. I mean, yeah, it's pretty simple as that. But if you're not convinced of it, there's no way it's going to work. You can just walk around like a bumbling idiot all day long, pretending to be happy, telling jokes and acting like a character, knowing deep down inside you don't have the confidence, you don't have the self-esteem, you don't have the belief system. Yeah. So change it all. Change it all around and make it work for you. Yeah. Give up on the idea that it's somebody else holding you down. When you come back to it, just follow the money. Follow the money, see how the money is chasing the goods and services. See how it is that it separates the rich from the poor. Look at other people out there who talk about how it is it's so difficult to get and so hard to make it and all the horribleness in their life, and then and watch their behavior as they dump all their money into the bars and the restaurants and concerts. And you ask them, how much Bitcoin did you buy this year? And they say, Bitcoin? Oh, I wouldn't put it into that scam. Oh, stocks? You just might as well be gambling. Oh, saving? Oh, it's just getting eaten away by the erosion of inflation. You might as well spend it early. And I'm thinking, excuse. You're on the bottom side of the wedge, aren't you? You're never like, I get it. I was there. I did that. I did that exact same thing. So it was like, I know I did that. And as people try to figure out what it is they need to do, they'll continue to make excuses. All right, wow, look at all these comments. You guys are awesome. All right. Happy is an illusion. Happy is just a brief moment, right? It's just your interpretation of it. What makes you, like, you could sit there and watch a comedian and laugh your ass off where the person next to you is not. It doesn't make the person any more funny or less funny. It's just the meaning that you have given it. Like, people say, oh man, that dude is funny, right? Or you can say, man, that guy makes a lot of people laugh. You see, there's a difference inside of that. Like, I give it meaning that dude is funny, right? Or I give that meaning to this dude makes a lot of people laugh. Because he may not be funny to some people. So to give it meaning that he isn't right. He does. Those are rights, right? He does make people laugh. Doesn't make all people laugh, but he can make everybody laugh in this room because he was really good at what he did. So understanding that everything is just the meaning that you give it, even as something as simple as somebody being funny, how they're funny, right? Housing is expensive. Yeah. Compared to what, right? Yeah, that's a good way to look at it. Is compared to what? Housing is expensive compared to gold? Is housing expensive, compared to, I don't know, like a lot of stuff out there to I don't know, whatever you want to compare it to, right? And then you can find the comparison and you can say, yeah, it's expensive this way, but it's not expensive that way. And you say, is it expensive to an hourly wage job? Hell yeah, it's expensive to an hourly wage job. Is it expensive to an investor who puts money towards capital investments that are running up in asset price that, just constantly pays some dividend yields? Maybe not. They might actually be another investment for that person. Its own meaning. And so as I look out there and I see people like blame politics and blame the system and blame all these other things, and I'm like, man, you give meaning of blame. You ever thought of maybe giving meaning of reason? Like, I can do it even though this is hard, this is heavy, this is difficult. I can work through it because other people are doing it. you know? Still, nearly half of the people here can hit the like button to support the channel. Please take a second to do that. Yeah, I appreciate it. When you guys hit that like button, it definitely takes the video and spreads it around. I can see it happen too, because like the number of people who join in after a run up in likes is pretty cool. Like you can actually see the algorithm grab the video and spread it around, because all of a sudden there'll be this huge jump in viewers. Now, how many stick around? I mean, I guess that's how entertaining I am. Um, like I like this one, blame COVID. And it was just like, blame COVID for what? I mean, COVID, here's the thing. I look at COVID as probably one of the best experiences in my life. You know that? Like, I know that's hard to say because so many people look at it as this tragic event, but I'm thinking about me personally. I earned more money. My channel grew more during that time. I got sick, but nobody in my family died. Nobody like got any permanent damage from it. You know, I did know a couple of people who passed away, but you know, they were kind of old smokers, like, you know, to me, I'm thinking, well, who knows? They might have passed away anyway, you know, as far as like, you know, their age and their health condition. So to me, like I looked at COVID and I didn't think about how it was damaging me. I looked at COVID and I thought, man, I really did well during that time. Like, I mean, I understand that I could have gave it meaning that, oh, dude, that's a horrible thing to think about. And you did good during other times we're suffering and in terrible condition. And I'm thinking, well, you know, I mean, shit, it was my fault. You know, I mean, it wasn't my fault that you guys got sick and that everybody got hurt by it. I'm just saying that the position that I was holding at the time and what happened to me was a good thing, right? Like, I mean, I had to face some, you know, consequences from it too. I couldn't find a place to live, considering there was a rent moratorium from the COVID, right? So now here it is. I'm trying to figure out a place to live. I'm trying to deal with that in a very stressful manner, and all the stress that came from it, right? So that was COVID that was punishing me, but ultimately the result from it was a pretty good thing because I ended up in this house. So like I still look at COVID as being a good thing, even though at the time it was a really stressful experience. No matter what you do, you give the meaning to everything, no matter what it is, good or bad. All right. After a while, I only rely on price action support and resistance pivots and keep it real simple. All right. I have to bounce, unfortunately. Have a great time, everybody. Pity I can't stick around. That's okay, Brody. I'm not going to be too much longer here. I really appreciate you being here, bud, and all the hard work you spend going through all those comments, man. It's just incredible. All right. Most folks are just worried if Social Security will be there when they retire at 72. And Joseph, see, this is the thing. I gave up on Social Security a long time ago. See, I gave up on, that's one of the actually the nice things that I take from my experience as a conspiracy theorist is that I look at things like Social Security and government safety nets and all that other stuff. I distance myself from that stuff as far as like what I expect from it. Like I know I have to pay into it, but I just kind of look at it as my old people tax. And so people who are collecting it today, I mean, that's fine here. You know, like I don't want them to suffer, you know, and I don't necessarily like paying into Social Security, knowing that I'm not going to get anything back from it, or at least having a belief system that says I'm not relying on that or expecting it in any way. Some people tell me, no, you have to give it importance. You deserve it. It's yours. And I'm like, No, don't do that to me. All right. I'm not gonna put all this importance on an external like that, knowing that there's nothing I can do about it. No, no, thank you. I mean, that's a if it's there, cool. If it's not, I wasn't counting on it anyway. So be it. So I have my own belief system on what it is that I'm gonna do with Social Security, which is not expect it. And as people get upset with me about it because they want to use it as a political push or power or carrot to dangle over you, it doesn't work for me. So I just simply don't even think about it. I mean, I see it on my check that gets removed, but again, old people tax, no problem. Don't expect it. Don't worry about it. It's just money that's gone. And you know how, again, I just let it go, right? I don't carry the weight of it. Because people who are like, oh no, man, I got to expect this, I got to rely on it, that's a tough road. Because you're going to be, you're going to be at the mercy of, the government. And that's, I mean, I don't know, maybe some people are okay with it. I'm not. Like, I don't want the government involved in anything that I do. Like, the more I can get them out of my life, the more I can make them irrelevant, the more I'm like, that's the happier I get. When people say happy is an illusion, you're right, man, because I got government interfering in everything that I do. I'm a anarchist, libertarian mindset kind of person, and I don't want them at all in any way, shape, or form. Like, I mean, I just like the government that we have nowadays. I want to push back against that by saying, let's have no government at all. Right? Because there's no way that can happen either. But what we have shouldn't happen either. So neither one of those things should be taking place, and maybe we can find some happy ground in between. Just saying. People who ask for big government, ask for government intervention, ask for all this other stuff. I'm over here going, I don't want any of that stuff, and I think we should pull away from it. And the more I can get them out of my life by just saying, hey, I don't give a shit about you. All right? They want, like, because everything wants you, no, you have to care. And I was just like, I do care. I care so much about how it is that I'm conducting myself that I care less about them because they don't conduct me. They're not in charge of my outcome. And like, that's not going to happen. And if I gave them any kind of power to be in charge of my outcome, I would lose the ability to do the things that I do. Uh, uh, you think most Americans can invest in 2025? Absolutely, I think so. Absolutely. Why can't you? You can invest right now. I mean, there's the only thing that literally keeps people from investing is their own belief system that holds them back. Like, that's it. I mean, can you come up with $5? If you can come up with $5, you can invest. And that's all there is to it. It's not a lot. I don't care. It's not a matter. And that's the other thing. $5. See, I'll tell people, just start investing $5. $5 a week. And they're like, oh, what are you going to do with $5? That ain't going to make any difference. And it was just like, there it is. Boom. Wrong energy. You already failed. You're not going to make it. You're not going to make it to the other side of the wedge. If you just said that to yourself, $5 is not enough, what difference would that make? That's the problem right there. You're in the wrong energy. You're in the wrong mindset, the wrong belief system. You're in limitation. You're in, lacking. You're in, lack of worthiness. Your lack of self-esteem. All this stuff, it's lacking right there just by simply saying it. $5 isn't enough. What could that possibly do? You're already defeated. Sorry, man. We'll try it again next week. All right? Just keep listening. Because the moment that you say, yeah, I can do $5, there you are. Bam. Investor. Small, right? Pretty small. And for a lot of people, it might seem insignificant, but the energy you're in is absolutely profound. That's investor energy. $5 a week from now on, no doubt about it, gonna happen, right? You're gonna have a change in life. You put $5 a week every single week into an investment. You pay attention to what investment you're going to be putting that towards. You're doing that on a regular basis, and I guarantee you 1 week you're going to want to put 6. You may even want to put 7. You may even cut back on some coffee for the week that you've been stopping and buying, and you're going to put $15 this week into the investment. Right? You start getting into this mindset, this energy, and you're going to be thinking, I'm not spending money on anything right now because I really want to buy this stock while it's down. And that's the feelings, that's the thoughts, that's the behavior you start moving into. But most people will be drinking their cup of coffee going, God, this world is so difficult, so hard. They keep me down. People spend hundreds of hours finding out where they want to go on vacation and no time on where to invest their money. Oh, yeah. Don't get me wrong. Like, I mean, having a feeling of reward for your efforts is absolutely like, I mean, that is a must within your life. If you do not feel rewarded for your efforts, then why do it? A vacation may be the goal. Like, really want to travel to this area and experience the culture and people, right? That's something that they've wanted in their entire life. That's cool. Like, I don't have, like, to me, I'm not saying whether or not you should or shouldn't do it. The maybe even the vacation part of things, the research for it, the hotels and all that, that's the motivator, the driver, right? That's what's getting people to say, no, man, that's why I'm putting in all this effort, is so I can have that sort of experience in my life, right? And in that sense, right, it's actually a good thing. You're using that for your benefit because it's the meaning that you're putting behind it. If somebody is just like, just constantly shopping, trying to figure out what it is that they're going to, spend their money on, and then complain about paying the bills, right? Like, this kind of mindset is just like, yeah, no wonder why you're suffering, from the consequences of it. It's because you expect something that you're not going to get, which is having all the fun of spending the money and keeping the money. Thank you so much, Ben, for joining the channel. The devil is the enemy and he wants your mind. Yeah, I mean, I think that can be really summed down to chasing excellence or pleasure, right? Like, I mean, it really can. Is there a $2 super chat I missed? I did. Sorry about that, Ben. I appreciate you. $2. What are some things to invest in for a broke 28-year-old? Okay, I don't really give investment advice to anybody on what it is that they should be placing their money into. I think that's really something that you need to discover for yourself. Now, I've always tried to tell people to invest in things that they know, right? Like, if you are, I don't know, like into beer, like drinking beer, and you know a lot about beer and, the consumption of beer, the brewing process or something of that nature, and you're really into it, then maybe invest in some beer companies or something like that. And I'm not trying to make a suggestion that you should invest in alcohol or beer or cigarettes or anything else like that. I'm just saying that that's one of many things that you can go into that you would recognize. But I would suggest going into something that you're going to actually pay attention to. So if it's something that you're into, then most likely you're going to pay attention to it. Like, I don't know anything about like computer tech stuff. And people are like, oh man, what do you think about the computer tech? What do you think about tech stocks? And I'm like, I really don't know. And then people will ask me, well, what do you think about cannabis? All right. And I'm thinking, oh, well, yeah, I know a lot about that stuff. I grew up in Oregon, man. I mean, it's like, it was, I don't know how many people know this, but marijuana was never a crime in Oregon. It was a misdemeanor. Possession of marijuana was a misdemeanor. You paid a $600 ticket. They confiscated it, and you went on your way. So long it was under a certain amount, wasn't packaged, wasn't being manufactured, but just simple possession was a misdemeanor ticket. Nobody, like, you got to, that's it. Like, nobody went to jail. Nobody lost their livelihood. None of that stuff took place, right? So the understanding of that particular, like, industry, or at least the understanding of the market within itself, like how it is that people behave with it, how it is that the demand for it, how people demand it, and then the availability of it, like how accessible is this stuff. when I put all that information together from understanding it from being a little kid, I thought that is a terrible business to invest in. It's probably the dumbest thing in the entire world to invest in. Sorry guys for who's ever invested in it, but that's dumb, right? That is lame. Anybody can grow that stuff. There's no special talent or skills that are needed. There's really a massive abundance that can come from it, and unless you make it illegal, there's really no value in it. It's like literally a worthless product. I I mean, and I know a lot of people will get upset when they hear that. And again, this is my own personal view coming from somebody who grew up in in an area in which that it's very prevalent and always has been. The idea that it has some sort of value to it was always because it was illegal. There is no other value to it. I mean, at least with beer, you can get some sort of calorie out of it. And I know that's probably like, a low level value to put on it, but it's still at least something, right? That's there. When it comes to weed, unless you're talking like the medicinal part of things, like the CBD or something, there's really no value to it at all except for getting high, and that's it. That's the only value that it carries with it. And so if you took it to the idea that, well, maybe you can use it for hemp production, which is one thing, which that's not what we're talking about, or you use it for the medicinal use like CBD, which again, very powerful medicine, totally works. Everybody's proven how awesome it is. But again, on the grand scale of things, that's a very minute part of the industry. Everybody's growing it to get high. And that's the part that then fails the system, right? That fails this whole thing is because the reasoning behind it has no value, and the ability to grow it is just massively abundant, therefore gives zero value to it. It's like a swimming in a sea of green, right? It's cheap. Now, don't get me wrong, really high quality stuff will have a price tag to it. And if you process it, then you can have some value in that, right? So there's some value in the actual processing part of things, turning it into something else and growing the highest quality of it. But for the most part, there's such an abundance of it out there that it just feels on like nobody cares anymore. It's just everywhere. It's super cheap, and it's like it doesn't have really any value. All the dispensaries talk about how difficult it is to make it, and how it's all getting concentrated into just the hands of just a handful of like big time companies, which makes a lot of sense because they're the only ones who can really make a profit off of it. I knew it. People ask me all the time, should I invest in that? I was like, hell no. Absolutely not. Worst idea in the world. Never would touch it. If in the early days, like a state that first gets legalized, then like right in there, like the first few years, you can do fairly well because it's like kind of a growing industry. But once it gets established and the abundance is there, it just goes right downhill. All right. Healing herb. It is matter of dosage. It is not used as healing herb, but a sedative. He's right. It's everywhere. Oh man, if you're up here in Oregon, like especially in this area, there's like, it's a ridiculous amount. It's just everywhere. I mean, it's like people don't like you could smell it in the air. When you're walking around, like there's obviously somebody around here. All right. If you're really poor, invest in a wash rag, and all the money you save on TP, invest in the tissue company. Okay, that's one way of going about it. Well, and the idea of investing, I think literally is just it, it's really your creative mind that puts it to work. Where can I put this money that's going to have a return? I mean, some people, they will flip, like my buddy, he would look for things on the internet, right? He would look for things on the internet to buy and then turn around and sell. He always had a little stockpile. Like he says, you always have to have a little bit of money because you need the money to make money. That was him. That was how he invested. He wouldn't invest in like the traditional sense where you put it in the stock market and buy bonds and you buy, like he probably does that now. But at the time, like when I knew him, like hanging out with him in his kitchen, he would be like flipping items. See, that's what he was big into, was finding cheap stuff and turning around and selling it for for what it would go for a market price. And so that's investing. All right. I thought about it. It's like you can invest into putting lumber together, right? Building picnic benches or something like that, picnic tables. You, like, somebody could even do that with a credit card. If you do it quick enough and you turn it around quick enough, you could use a credit card, which is somebody else's money, to acquire all the lumber, the tools, and everything you need, flip that picnic table, pay off the credit card, and have a little bit of profit, and do the same thing over and over again, profiting off of the use of the credit card so long as you can complete the project within 30 days. I mean, people are like, well, how do I get the funding to do it? It was just like, well, there's funding everywhere. You just got to think about how to turn that borrowed money into something that is going to be profitable very quickly. And again, like, that's your creative mindset that's going to start to figure that part out. Me personally, I think about places that I could put money that's very passive and quiet and just, easy for me to deal with, because I'm terrible at market timing. Like, I'm not terrible at market timing when it comes to making a purchase of dollar cost average. Like, it was like I found that I timed it perfectly with my dollar cost averaging to buy a little over one share of Coinbase at the absolute bottom. Well, I got others, and then they were fairly low, but on that particular day, I happened to be buying, and I happened to nail it on the day that it was the cheapest. Did I buy a ton of it that day like I should have? No, because I didn't know that was the bottom. I didn't even know that was gonna, like, I just happened to be like, wow, it's really cheap today, and I bought it. Lucked out, just complete luck. But that's dollar cost averaging for me, and it seems to work out really well when I look at things and I say, man, this seems to have had a huge sell-off over the last couple of years. Seems reasonable to me to jump in, right? Dollar cost average on the bottom. Don't know exactly where the bottom is, but hey, we can do this over the next couple of years and see what happens. To me, that's investing. It's simple investing. Other people are like, where do I put money today so I can have $100,000 in 15 days? I have no idea. If you can figure that out, let me know, right? Because there's people out there who can do that. Yeah, I don't know how to do that. I mean, I watch my portfolio of cryptos move up by $15,000 inside of a few months, a few weeks, and I'm like, wow, holy crap, that's quick. And then I'll watch the same thing go the other direction, and it's just like, wow, that was really quick. But then I've gotten used to the volatility of it, so I don't think much about it. I don't think like I made or lost $15,000. I just think, wow, that's a lot right now going on. It's going to be more at some point. Just subscribe. Thank you so much for subscribing. All right. The pot today is not the same as back in the 90s. Today, this pot is GMO and exceptionally strong. Genetically modified? I don't think so. It is what high fructose corn syrup is to corn. Here's something that's really interesting to think about. Here people have manipulated the marijuana to make it something that it never would have been in the wild, like in its own existence. If nobody was to have ever messed with this plant and it was just to grow and just be natural, it never would have been the product that we have today. Right? But yet, did the marijuana itself begin to evolve, becoming in itself attractive to the human species so that it would be cultivated? Like, plants don't necessarily have a thought process like that, but just like any other survival of the fittest, the strong survive. Well, if the strongest marijuana was the one that's getting cultivated, right, would it not be the plant that's manipulating the human to become a better plant? Right? I mean, if everything is evolving and only the survival of the strongest, most fittest, most fitting for the environment can make it, then wouldn't it be the plant itself who's manipulating the human by becoming stronger, by having the ability to even become stronger in the potentness of it? then has the human caring for this plant with absolute care? Did the plant figure out an evolution process through its ability to have the THC be such an attractant to the human that the human will cultivate it to the most extreme, caring for this plant in a way that no other plant gets cared for? It's weird to think about it like that, isn't it? Is it the plant that manipulated the human? Or is it the human that manipulated the plant? All right. Little weed shop of horrors. When God created cannabis, God planned on humans breeding cannabis. Understanding that. Okay. Don't drink alcohol. No more cannabis. I can't picture myself wasting 3 hours of my life as if social media wasn't already time consuming. Yeah, I can believe that. I mean, social media is just as much of a drug as anything else is out there. TikTok, all the short videos, all that other stuff, super addictive things. How long are we going to go for, guys? We're an hour 40 minutes into this, 165 likes with 204 people watching. Thank you so much for joining in on today's live stream. UE, probably a mutual evolution with the plant and the people. Yeah, it has to be, right? I just think that that's a very interesting kind of concept to try and think about it. It's just like, what happened here? Did the people like, oh, I want a better plant, or did the plant try to figure out the best survival instinct or the best survival technique, right? Because it doesn't necessarily have instincts, but the best survival technique, and just like anything out there, the strongest will survive. It was able to figure out, well, not necessarily figure out, but it evolved into being the strongest, most potent plant that it can in order for the human to continue to cultivate it. Right? I mean, I just think that is just like it is like so awesome to think on how this plant could have possibly done that, right? I don't know. People making God the creator of potheads is an abomination. I don't necessarily agree with that. I think that's the meaning you're giving it. I mean, all these things on this planet were put here for us to use, right? And it's somebody else who says you're not supposed to do that. But it's not anything that I was told from nature outside of the poisoning that comes from it that says, hey, you either should or shouldn't do it. I mean, if you ate it and you puked, right, and you threw up, most likely you're probably like, nah, that's not going to do it for me. But if you ate that thing and then you had a thought that came from it that says, man, I have a different feeling about this world. I have a different feeling about how it is that I interact with nature, and how it is that I believe that I am fitting into this place, and it was due after I ate this particular plant or whatever it is. Like, to me, that's not necessarily, both of those things are not something that it was denied to you or should be denied to you. Like, that's something that you should experience and use if it was at the time presented to you. It's not, I guess what I'm saying is, it's like, it's not something you should do in your life. Like, you need to do this at some point so you have the experience. Sometimes when you get an experience that you weren't necessarily ready for, or maybe questioning whether or not you should go through it, that right there, that experience of it, is the test of your life. Do I do this? Do I make the conscious effort to try this out? Is there a reason why I'm high right now? Was there some experience that I needed to get from this in order to teach me the lesson that I needed to learn in order to move on in my world? Like, all these questions that people ask, I think to myself all the time when they say, oh, you should or shouldn't do it. And I'm like, no, man, that's the lesson in life. If you don't do it, then you're not going to learn the lesson. And as people say, well, what about this horrible experience and now they're living in the gutter and all that? It was like, they didn't learn their lesson. They didn't learn it. That's the reason why they're going through it right now. It's the reason why I was going through the shit that I went through. It is because I wasn't learning my lesson from it. And the more you don't learn it, the more you're going to experience it. And that happens with a lot of people for a lot of different things. The loss of money, the loss of relationships, the loss of their own life. They didn't learn the lessons that they were supposed to learn in order to overcome those things. So they kept experiencing it over and over and over again until they were finally just overwhelmed with the punishment of it. And they either changed their life or they died. Right? Died with the pain, died with the suffering, died miserable. Or they realized what was the cause. They figured out why they're feeling the way they are. They realized that it's going to have to come down to something more than just the change of the external, but a change of the internal. And when they figure that part out, all of a sudden the world becomes a better place. Becomes a place that they don't have to carry the weight of somebody else's behavior on their shoulders. They can let that all go. And it's all different after that. People doing drugs to escape from the miserable life. Absolutely, they do. Take accountability and blame yourself for smoking it. Absolutely, crazy. That's exactly right. If you are a lazy individual who can't get off the couch because all you want to do is play video games and smoke weed, then don't expect anything in your life. Don't complain about the failure that you experience from it. Now, if you worked hard all day and you busted your ass and you got excellence that you've chased and you got a bank account full of money and you're paying your bills on time and you want to take a couple of hours to relax on a Friday and have beers and smoke weed and play video games and just chill out for a while, hey, that's on you. That's 2 hours that you could have been chasing excellence some more. But if you want to unwind some of that excellence and relax for a little bit and enjoy the evening with beers and weed and video games and pay for the consequence of it with a hangover the next day just to go back out there and chase some more excellence, that's on you. Most people end up finding themselves spinning their wheels when they do that. They wonder, man, I worked so hard and yet it's so hard to get ahead. Why? Probably because the moment that you had the opportunity to chase some more excellence, you unwound it. Whether it's a good or bad thing, that's entirely up to you. But if you're quite successful and all that, and you just want to sit there and chase pleasure all day, I mean, maybe, hey, lucky you, you know? I mean, I don't know. I can't do that. Like, when I attempted to do that, my life deteriorated into a pit of misery. So, like, now that I chase or try to chase excellence as much as possible so that I can put myself in the better position, I find myself very relaxed all the time and not stressed out about anything. And, you know, all the external behaviors of people out there really have very little impact on my life. It's good, man. I'm good with it. All right. We got to call this quits at some point. All right. Excellent pot is excellence. I don't know about that. Simon's a pot hater. Absolutely not. That is not true. Let's cruise back here a little ways. Interesting take. The offspring of the plant that invested in itself versus going into luxuries is one we have now. All right. I reduced my workload and switched front-end web development. It's free anyway these days. Alrighty, guys. So this was awesome. 192 people watching, 175 likes. That's incredible. I can't believe how many people have hit that like button today. That's just awesome. Thank you so much. We're an hour and 48 minutes into this live stream. I think we should probably call it quits. 2 hours is enough to take up for your Sunday morning into the afternoon, depending on where you're at. But I believe that, you know, keeping the right mindset and keeping the belief that the external is not the problem, it's the internal and how it is that you are giving meaning to the information is going to be the best way to deal with what it is that you are facing. Anytime we put it on the external, we're going to find that it's going to be very difficult and frustrating to change it. We can never change the external. We have to accept the things in our life that we cannot change. And by accepting those things in our life that we cannot change, there is new meaning that we can give to the things that are in our life. And giving meaning to whatever it is that's in our life is the absolute best way to then find yourself in a better position, because you can give it meaning of negative or you can give it a meaning of positive, no matter what it is. Even if it's a negative thing that had happened to you, the lesson that you learn from it can be a positive one. So always give the meaning a positive one, or of one that you have learned something from, even if it's a negative, like, event that had happened. So understanding it in this fashion is going to give you a much better outlook on life, and then it's going to give you a much better look in the way of how it is that you need to position yourself. That way can be anything from starting a business to saving money to investing, or just even just putting out the effort, just going out there and trying hard. So, everybody learns their lessons. Everybody has to face their consequences and figure out what it is that they need to do, because nobody's going to be doing it the same. And I think that's probably the most important thing to understand as far as like economics go. Blaming the external or finding the systematic problems is a deterrent from what it is that you could be doing to actually chase the excellence. All right. The rabbit hole this is. If you like it, why not? No judgment, no harm. That's Simon. Smoke some hash and relax, brother. Don't panic. It's organic. All right. Deplorable put 400 comments up there. I'll read one. That's why. Nope. Already out. Sorry, bud. All right. The pessimistic. I want to go read one thing, and you have to turn racist on it. I'm not even sure if it's a racist comment, but I'm not going to go any further. That's why black people, bro, come on, honestly, man. I don't know. Maybe you're black yourself. I don't know, but I'm not going to continue on with it, bro. That's one of the reasons why I don't even read your comments, is because I just don't like half the stuff you say. All right. A pessimistic mindset is not conducive to resilience. No, you're right. And I think the pessimistic mindset, at least for me, was one of like self-preservation. Like, I was trying to protect myself. You look at the worst outcome, so then you can protect yourself from that outcome. The only problem is by protecting yourself from the outcome, you actually create the outcome. You actually make it happen. And that's such a bummer for most people to try and face, is that they literally created the environment that they now face. And they don't want to accept that. I know all the bad situations that I had faced, I can look back and say, well, there was probably this behavior that led me down the path to experience that. So, I don't know, like, for everybody else out there trying to internalize or accept their bad behavior as the reason that they are where they are, I mean, I don't know how to get people to do that. Like, I don't know why. I know why people don't want to, but I don't know why people don't want to take it and actually use it to benefit themselves. Like, most people don't even, like, you'll find it at like places like, you go to an AA meeting and you'll find somebody there who has a very difficult time talking about themselves being an alcoholic, even though everybody in the room knows exactly the feeling. They're all there. We've all done the exact same thing. We're all in the exact same boat, but yet they're trying to protect their image or something, and they have a very difficult time sharing that, right? They can't face it up to it. They can't own it. And again, that's what usually restricts most people in every way. It's just like, they can't own the fact that they made bad decisions that made them poor. They won't own it. They will blame somebody else on the reasons why they're poor. All right. Unless you were born a crack baby, most of us shouldn't complain. Listening to the genuine opinions of the working class is also great work. All right. Refined cane sugar, high fructose is probably much worse for you. True. If you're watching this video, you're probably not making money. Get to work. Unless you were born a... Oh, we already read that one. Alrighty, guys. I think we're done for the day. I think you guys are getting bored with it now. But anyway, I really appreciate you guys sticking it out. We got 185 likes into this video with 178 people watching. I love it when there's more likes than there is people watching. I see Brody back in the chats. Thank you so much for being here and all the hard work you do and dedicated to the channel, making sure that the comment section stays clean, free of the spam and hate. You know, out there, it's easier than people realize. And I think, honestly, it's easier to find excuses and the reasons on why you can't make it. But once you see how easy it really is on the mindset, and then actually how fun it really is. See, this is where I think a lot of times people think that it's not fun. When you get a feeling of excitement because you've accomplished a task, that can come from so many things. Like, it can come from doing the dishes. It can come from mowing the lawn. Like, I mowed the lawn yesterday. It's kind of a hot day. It took me all day. I was so tired of it. And I woke up this morning. I stretched and I look out there with that nice, clean cut grass. And I'm like, yeah, it feels so good, right? It feels so good to have accomplished that task. And having this like idea that you can do things in your life that is going to put you down a road of acquiring more abundance ends up being the fun thing in your life. As people sit there and they scroll through social media and they're like, oh, this is fun, right? What they are actually getting is dopamine hits off of it, right? So they get this dopamine addiction. But if you could get your excitement and fun and dopamine hits from the reward that you get from chasing excellence, it's the same feeling. Pretty soon, you don't have to waste time screwing around, you know, on social media or playing games to have fun. You can have fun chasing that excellence because literally that is what's giving you the excitement in your life. If you're not chasing the excellence, you're bored. Like, I find watching TV or even scrolling Facebook to be like really boring. And I want to find like, I'm like, man, I'm going to go make a video, or I'm going to go out there on the internet and talk on, you know, do live stream and break down economic policies and stuff like that. Like, to me, that is where I find the excitement and fun. I don't find it necessarily in scrolling social media. Now, something interesting about it is that if I do scroll for a while, I will find myself getting addicted to it. And then all of a sudden, I'll realize that I'm scrolling Facebook and I don't even remember clicking on the app. Like, I don't even remember opening it up. All of a sudden, I'm just there. I'm thinking, yeah, that's it right there. That's the dopamine addiction that you were getting from that funny meme or, you know, video or whatever it is that, you know, is being posted there. So knowing that's what's going on internally, like that's what's happening. At first, it's difficult chasing the excellence to get the dopamine hits, to get the excitement from it, to feel that little, you know, shot of giddiness or happiness that comes from it. It's a little difficult in the early days when you're first starting it off, but then once you get moving in that direction, it's like an unstoppable train, man. It just drives you, and you just want to keep doing it and do more. But for a lot of times, for people who have been playing video games for the last 10 years, to try and switch off of video games, which is like this mind numbing, just constantly filling you up with this feeling of like euphoric feeling that is almost false because you're not really doing anything but sitting there and just staring at the screen, to all of a sudden have to actively physically do something or pay attention to something that is beyond that of the screen, but to do the physical work or to type up those emails or to do something, your brain wants to be back at that video game, but your brain will switch to this other stuff, all these other things that you could do chasing excellence, and it'll start to fill you with those happy, euphoric feelings. Yeah. You just have to literally train yourself to do that. And it takes a while. It takes time to get there. And that's where I think, like, a lot of times people say, oh, I started it, but I just couldn't do it. All right. I was really into it at first, but then it faded away, right? Because they were really excited with this new thing that they were doing, having like the fun and the, you know, it was like, it wasn't boring, but then it kind of got boring and it wasn't as fun anymore. And it wasn't really like, you know, doing the thing that they wanted it to do. And so they just kind of back away from it, not realizing that they had to stick with it for a little longer in order for it to really turn into the thing that they wanted it to be, you know? Honestly, the money you probably spend on weed, if you invested that in the stock market, you would probably have a pretty big money back by now. I would imagine for most people, for most people who spend their money down at the bar or spend it on an intoxicant of some sort, if they were to take that money and put it into, some sort of investment of some kind, they would probably do quite well. Like, you really want to see somebody who's motivated. Look at I mean, it's scary to think about and it's kind of sad, but there's really nobody who is more motivated to make money than a meth head. They will go through all kinds of effort and they will get it done. They will make it happen at any price, at any cost. Now, granted, there's illegal activities and damage and violence and all kinds of stuff that could come from it. Setting that horridness aside, the motivation behind it is that they will get that at any price, at any cost, for any reason. And when you think about that sort of motivation behind it, that's almost unstoppable. Right? And it's scary how unstoppable that really is. All right. Okay, if we're just gonna sit here and talk weed, I think I'm done. Pot strings, deplorable behavior. Let's see here. Yeah. Okay, we'll just call it quits here because you guys just want to talk about weed, which is cool. I don't care, but like the YouTube algorithm hates it, so it's probably just gonna kill it anyway. So thank you guys for being here, Uneducated Economist. You guys let me know.